Are you tired of sending out resume after resume only to feel like you're lost in the system? Or maybe you're a small business owner who's overwhelmed by the recruitment process, struggling to find the right fit without breaking the bank. What if there was a way to simplify it all and even bring inclusivity into the equation? Today on Beyond Chronic Burnout, we're thrilled to welcome Jacqueline Diez. Jacqueline is not only a seasoned recruitment expert, but also a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. With a deep commitment to neurodiversity in the workplace and educational equity, Jacqueline brings a unique perspective on how we can change the job market for both job seekers and employers. Her background in recruitment combined with her drive to coach and develop talent makes her the perfect guest to guide us through the often overwhelming world of hiring and job seeking. In our conversation, Jacqueline shares her strategies for reducing stress on both sides of the hiring process. We'll discuss common pitfalls like the misconception of applying everywhere, the advantages of small businesses as employers, and the role of personalized approaches in recruitment. Plus, Jacqueline introduces us to the Stephen Project, a groundbreaking initiative providing job opportunities and support for neurodivergent individuals. If you're looking for actionable advice to make job seeking or hiring easier and more inclusive, this episode is for you. So grab a notebook and tune in. You don't want to miss these valuable insights from Jacqueline Diez.
Step out of the shadows, feel the power rise, catch the spark inside you, let your spirit fly. Beyond the chronic burnout, Carole Jean's your guide, find your steady rhythm, nice joy on the tide. Flourish forward, bright and bold, leave the burnout far behind. In this journey, hearts unfold. Yours, seek and find.
Welcome to the show today, guys. I am super excited. I have Jackie Diez here, and we are going to be talking all things job seeking and recruiting without burning out. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the whole process is stressful on both sides of the table. Whether you're the one seeking talent and recruiting for your firm and your organization, be that 5 to 10 employees or less, maybe you're a solopreneur and looking for your first talent recruitment, or if you're in an organization of thousands, this is super stressful. And if you're the job candidate, holy moly, it might be like 12:15 a.m. and you're going, but I got to get one more resume out. I got to upload one more thing to Indeed and get this next thing up. Where are all the keywords? Should I be doing this? Oh my gosh, I haven't published anything on LinkedIn. I got to start networking. It's exhausting.
Yes, it really is.
Welcome to the show, Jackie. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here today because you're going to be talking about both sides of the table because you bring a lot of experience. Your zone of genius is ripe with juicy goodness for us today.
Thank you. I love that.
But before we move into that, I want to know, what has been your experience in the career recruiting a job seeking world when it comes to burnout, Jackie?
Well, it hasn't only happened once, but it's happened a few times, right? So I think that as a mother of 3, well, I didn't have the third child back then, but I remember the first time that it really, that I noticed that it was burnout. The company that I was with, I was an operational leader and at a corporate company, and they were bought out, and then the let goes were coming in, and it was just like, yeah, the first round I was safe, the second round I was safe. I was being reassured that my job was safe. Third round came around and I was safe. I'm like, there's not going to be a fourth round, but that was like very stressful, right? And then the fourth round came, and it was just like, yeah, you're out of a job. So it was not only stressful, right? But you're handling the day to day with your kids, my husband, cleaning, cooking, just like I was doing every single day while I was working. But then you have the added stress of like, hey, where's my part of the income that's coming into the house going to come from? And you start applying and applying and applying, and you're doing everything during the day, and you think that you have time to send out your resume. And it just like, I got so burnt out and I realized that I was burnt out because, of course, one of my kids, the younger one at the time, he was more brilliant than I was. And he was like, I think you're getting burned out. Maybe you should be sending out so many applications, because he saw that he would go to bed,
Wow.
he would wake up to go to school, and I'm still applying. And it's just like, hey, what's wrong with me? Because I think I'm badass and my resume looks pretty good. And, I have a great background. I don't understand why people aren't calling me. Or, they would call, I would have go in for the interview. This was non-virtual times, by the way. I would go in for the interview, and then it's just like, we'll get back to you in 2 or 3 days. And I didn't hear back, so it took my son saying that for me to take a step back and say, okay, let me kind of revamp just to see how I'm going to go about this, because sending out all these resumes and all these applications isn't really making sense right now. So let me kind of take a step back and see how I'm going to proceed with this.
How did that burnout, that build up of stress? Because I mean, making it through 4 rounds, oh my gosh. I've got friends who work for some pretty big companies in this past year. That's what they faced. And I know maybe a lot of you guys who are listening today have been through a similar, or maybe in that similar position today. And first of all, our hearts go out to you, because we have both been there. And the other thing is the build up, and like it's like you're holding your breath, waiting on the shoe to drop when you know there are these rounds of layoffs. And it's so, gosh, it's so stressful. But how did that stress start to show up for you in ways that you noticed? Like, were you getting like really short tempered? Like, as a mom, that's where I kind of lost it. I was like, had less patience with the kids, with my husband, with the mess, with the stuff. How did you start to like notice them in your daily life and in interactions?
Well, it's funny because you don't notice them at first. It's the people around you who notice them. Like my kid.
Like your genius children.
Yeah.
They always call us on our stuff, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. My husband too. He was just like, "Oh, geez, okay, like everything's gonna be fine, relax." But yeah, it was kind of like getting snippy, or feeling tired when you're really not tired. It's a weird feeling, because it's not like you're physically tired, it's you're mentally tired. So a family member or a friend or my mother-in-law, someone calls and you just don't want to talk. You just don't pick up because you're mentally drained. And then it's just like picking out something so simple as what we're going to eat for dinner. It's like, oh my gosh, chicken or beef. Like, and it's just something so simple. So that's where people start noticing, calling you out on it. And then you're like, yeah, that's it. And then you kind of like have to take a step back and kind of like regroup. Yep.
Oh my gosh. So relatable and all of that. And that mental exhaustion that you just mentioned is, I think that's one of the biggest places that our energy gets impacted in the whole like career recruiting place. I mean, even if you're not the job seeker, but you're the position and the recruiter looking for talent, it's equally as exhausting.
Yes.
And I would love to know, like, Jackie, I want to get it on both sides of the table. So from the job seeker standpoint, what's the worst piece of advice you keep hearing and seeing out there today? What are people telling job seekers that it's just like, that's like the worst advice and it's really going to get you burned out?
Yeah. So, a real bad advice that I hear is, just like keep throwing it just to see what sticks. Like, yeah, some candidates are applying to jobs that they might not even be qualified for because somebody's telling them just keep sending it, just keep sending it. It doesn't matter who you're sending it to. Somebody's eventually going to call back. And unfortunately, that's not the case because there's these systems in place that if you're not qualified, some of these ATS systems and things like that just pick up on keywords that your resume don't have and you're automatically disqualified. So it's good sometimes, but at the same time, if you are qualified, but you didn't write the keywords in your resume, you might just be automatically rejected. But that's really bad advice. Don't go do that because you're just going to burn yourself out more because instead of like the 100 resumes that you've been sending out a day, somebody tells you, no, just send out more. And now you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to send out 150. And unfortunately, that's not going to make them call anytime sooner.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I know there's been a lot of discussion, especially pretty heated discussion over the last few months around those ATS systems and keywords. And, what I've been reading in some of the articles that have been coming out on LinkedIn, which made me feel so much better, was that now there's more layers to it. It's not just that you get the keywords right. It's, do you have the previous experience, and are there other things that are showing in that skill set that align with it? Because it's also looking for those things. So I think what you're talking about is so powerful and really important, because I think that is some really crappy advice that we hear a lot of times. And I think just from a fear base, like our human response is, well, let me play the odds game. Like, I'm just going to gamble over here. I'm going to get the odds out. I'm going to put out 150 applications and then I'm going to get, a small percentage back. But as you were saying, if it's not aligned, then you can send 150 or 100 applications, but if they're not aligned, you're not going to get anything.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And you've just exhausted yourself needlessly.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to get to the solutions for this in a minute, but on the other side, on the flip side of this, if you are the organization looking, or the small business, because I know you specialize in small business recruitment, which I love. We're going to talk about that. So if you are the person seeking in talent acquisition, what are some of the things that's like the worst piece of advice that's out there right now for people looking for talent?
I think, again, we'll go back to the systems. And I think that some people may hate me for this because it may seem either counterproductive or it just may seem like more work. But if you're just relying on the systems to auto reject candidates and then just say, hey, this is your perfect candidate, you may be missing out on a lot of candidates that may be the right ones, because not everybody describes their job the way that it's actually performed. It's just like job descriptions. You read I hate job descriptions. Don't get me started on job descriptions. They tell you everything, but it's like, what am I doing? And then you're doing something like, why couldn't you just put something simple as to because sometimes you just read through that and you're just like, am I qualified? Maybe, but it's a lot of candidates are not expressing what they really do in a sense that people understand, and then they put the job titles. And what's funny about job titles is every company calls their a position something different. There's a lot of companies that just call like something specialist, and that could just mean you're a project manager. or,
It is really deceiving, and it makes it so hard. And there have been so many like creative titles that have emerged in the last couple of years. It is tough.
Exactly. So when you're putting that title on your resume and the description of what you do doesn't align with what you actually do, and then you have like this tricky title, people are like, yeah, this isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for a project manager. And this person is like, project specialist, and didn't really say exactly what a project manager does. So we're kind of like going to skip it. So whether it goes through that ATS system, or whether it some talent acquisition person or HR manager is reading it, it's not tying into exactly what they feel that they're looking for. And it gets really, really tricky, because you can be losing on a bunch of great candidates, and usually you have a deadline. It's like, okay, we're finding this person by this time, because we're going to be losing money, number one, and number two, we need to start training that person by a specific date so they can start in their position by a specific date. And then some people just start scrambling and then just make a bad hire.
Oh, wow. How many of us have experienced being either the one who did the bad hire or the one who was the bad hire?
Definitely.
And it does not feel good on either side, because
No, it doesn't.
if you've been hired for a position that was advertised in a way that did not truly align with what the company needed, and your resume matched that, and so they hired you for it, and you come in and you're like, whoa, this is not what you
What I was
advertised. This was
expecting,
not the position that I interviewed for.
that really happens a lot. And people will say like, well, what can I do if the job description does not align with what, and automatically a lot of people go to like, should I get a lawyer? That's not what was in the job description. And so it's really tricky.
It is, and it's exhausting, because not only have you just expended a ton of energy getting the position, and then if you get into the position and it isn't aligned with how it was presented, then you're even more distressed and stressed out. And the probability of burnout is even higher. And that is
Yeah.
then the company, because you're not happy, you're probably going to leave. And then the company is then stressed out and burned out, and they're having to start over again. And everybody on both
Yeah.
sides of the table is not getting what they need. All right. So Jackie, bringing in your zone of genius, all the amazing things that you do in the world. Let's start with our job candidate, our job seeker.
Mhm.
What's some of the tips or advice that you would love for somebody to know? What are some things that you're like, if I see this one more time, I'm just gonna like cry, because I know somebody's struggling and you're on the struggle bus, and this is what you need to know.
Yeah.
What are some things that somebody is like, maybe they just got laid off? Maybe they are like holding their breath because this is round 3 and round 4 is coming up, and they just need to go ahead and get prepared. Maybe they are sitting on their couch in front of their laptop, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and that's where they've been since dinner, and their kids wake up in the morning for school looking at them going, Mom, you were here when we went to bed. What does this job seeker need to know to really optimize their time and their resources in the most efficient and effective way, so they do not get into burnout, so that they're starting a job fresh and feeling good?
The top advice that I think that the number one thing is definitely keep your resume simple. There's so many samples online that I cringe from, instead of bullet points, they're bullet points with like paragraphs. And then, back in the days when I was applying when I was younger, it was just like an objective, and now it's just like a story at the top, a whole paragraph. Then it goes into your position, and then the bullet points become like really long paragraphs, and then all the skills, every single skill that is not even relevant to that position is listed. So I just say keep your resume simple, and by simple I mean bullet points should be just bullet points, the main idea, the main purpose, the main things that you were doing, the most important things that an employer will be looking for. So whether it is that you're looking for one job in particular, if you need to, just go through all those job descriptions and find those keywords, find what it is that they're looking for. Let's say I bring it back to project manager. What are companies looking for in a project manager? You may have been a project manager at your company, but they may have just called you a project manager, and you're taking words from the job description that you had that doesn't really correlate with other companies. So keep it simple, bullet points. If you want to kind of like brag about yourself at the top, like a lot of people are doing, like an overview of your background, just keep it 1 to 2 sentences long, and then a few skills. You don't have to put the every single skill. If you're a project manager, like I'm great at a lawnmower, you don't need to put that there. Now add it later on if you feel like you really want a job, and then you need to put that there. But if you're just sending out all these resumes, just make sure that that resume calls out to every single position that you're applying for. So I think that would be the top one. And don't worry about it being fancy with the colors. And the reason that I'm saying this is because there are so many applicants applying, right? And whether it's going through a system or just like a small business, a lot of small businesses, look at these resumes and read through these resumes one by one, because they're not going through, like, Indeed, by the way, is super expensive. So a lot of these companies can't afford that. So they do the hiring on their own, and they do the legwork on their own. So picture being one of those companies, and you're the one who's doing the hiring, and you have to go through all these paragraphs. They're not reading everything. They're skimming to, like, oh, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. So just keep it simple. Another thing is always be prepared that you're going to be called. So when you're called, kind of, a lot of employers kind of ask the same questions, like, they're all, nowadays it's a lot of behavioral questions. Tell me about a time. So when an employer asks you, tell me about a time, don't go into like, well, I think that, or, I like, and I'm really good at this. No, tell them about a time. Be specific about a time where you work that it correlates to that question. Also, when you're called for an interview or they're emailed you, it's very, very important that when they ask, like, so tell me what you know about us, it's like, well, I know that you're hiring, and I know that you sell this type of beans or whatever. No, just know the company. Make sure that you do your research. Make sure that you know exactly what you're talking about, because not only is it that they might ask that question, a lot of people ask that question, but it will also give you an idea of what answers they're looking for. It's going to give you that guidance and that path as to, okay, this is what they do. This is the answers that they're looking for. This is the type of person that they're looking for.
Oh, yeah. I cannot tell you how important it is to do your homework around an organization. And the thing is, it doesn't take a lot of time. It's something you can do in 30 minutes or less. And if you're really strategic around searching, looking for articles, looking for problems that they might be facing, and making sure that you're identifying those problems before you go into the interview with a solution and how you would solve the problem. I mean, that's where the juice comes. That's where the desire gets built for a hiring situation, in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
makes a big difference. So Jackie, I know that one of the things that I hear and I see so often, and I love that you come to this conversation from the small business angle and approach. So many people are out there, and the first place that they go is, let me go for the big businesses because there's, larger organizations have more resources, they have more open positions. But there's also a larger volume of competition for those positions. And I think there's a real gem, there's a real gold mine in small businesses. And guys, if you don't know the data on this, I will share with you. This is so fantastic. I love it because I'm a small business owner myself here.
Mm-hmm.
Over the pandemic, more small business licenses were applied for and small businesses were started than any other time. And
Yes.
here's what's really beautiful. Women-owned and minority-owned small businesses are really big, really big. And these companies have been growing over the last couple of years. And these now solopreneur mom and pop organizations are now hitting that mark in their business trajectory and their business plans where they're ready to grow. And I think it's so important to look at and even consider what, there's pros and cons on this, and we're going to talk about them, but applying to some of these small businesses. But we're going to talk about if you're a small business and you need some new talent to come in and help you because you're growing and you're trying to bootstrap it at night at your kitchen table because Indeed and other places to recruit, and you get, or even if you do a job posting board, I had a friend of mine put a job posting out for just an entry level position. And within 6 hours, she had over 1,400 applications.
Mm-hmm.
And she went, she just closed it. She was like, she was so overwhelmed. She's like, I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this. And she's like, I don't have the time. I don't even know how to navigate this. So Jackie, talk to us about if they're a job seeker, what are some of the benefits, the pros that they need to know about looking at small businesses versus these big organizations?
So when you're looking for a job, especially if you have urgency, right? And that, little pillow of savings is kind of like diminishing. Going corporate, you usually when people go corporate, they're going for the name, the prestige, maybe some not exactly benefits, but some added things like they get like reimbursed for the gym or things like that a small business can't give them, right? But with a small business, number one, they will respond sooner. And they will take the personalized approach rather than we reviewed your resume and we'll be giving you a call if you're, whether or not, and then they'll either reject you or, but typically in my experience, the small businesses respond sooner. Number one. Number two, when let's say they say they're going to call you in 2 days because they just interviewed 2 other candidates, they will call you in like 2 days, 2 or 3 days, because they have that sense of urgency. They don't have, that HR department that they're relying on somebody else to make the call, and somebody like either drop the ball or just they don't really have the time to do it. But also, like, when you get hired, there's that kind of like family feel most of the time, and you may not feel like you're in a family in some small businesses, but at least instead of like, let me have to put in for PTO, you can go and speak to either the small business owner, because typically that's your boss, or just the guy that's in between him, and say like, this is what's going on, or you're kind of like struggling at work because like I have OCD and ADHD, right? So this is something that you can speak to one-on-one and with a small business, rather than like, let me escalate this to the HR department. because I'm kind of like struggling at work and I need certain accommodations. Um, I think that those are like the biggest pluses. And I mean, as a job seeker, at like that's a huge plus. Like when you can get hired on the spot, and that when you go corporate, that never happens. Like rarely ever happens being hired on the spot. But that does happen with a lot of small businesses. They love you, and they hire you on the spot.
I love that you brought these two elements in. The timeline is so much shorter. It's a much faster
Yeah.
turnaround. And if that cushion's really running out, that's one thing to look at. The other thing is that there's also this place that within that smaller dynamic, there is more connection and relationship. There's more support available. And I think as we're talking about, accommodations, there's a whole different level in a small business, and there's more flexibility because there tends to be a lot less of that hoops and barriers to jump. And if you're just like, hey, I really need this to perform my job better, this would make me being able to show up and do this so much easier. In a small business, it's a really quick, easy decision. And there's a lot less barriers in there. And there's a whole lot less legalese that I think that comes in that we get in corporate environments when it comes to accommodations. So Jackie, what are some of the things, if they're on the other side of the table as a small business owner and you are looking for new talent, what are some of the best practices and things to know? I mean, when we're talking about the small business, I mean, you're in that position where, okay, you're competing with people looking at larger organizations. So maybe you do have less benefits or you do have less things to offer. I would say also, if you're coming at it from, I'm going for bigger organizations because I want, my gym membership covered and I want all of these different, employee benefits and things like that. I just want to ask you, if you've had them before, have you actually used them?
Exactly.
How many times have you used it?
But I also want to add, right, when it comes to small businesses, if they have the means and they want to keep you, they will always consider things. So like during like the negotiation process, like, okay, this is what we're going to pay you. This is the insurance that we have, or we don't have insurance. I've personally seen some small businesses say, hey, we don't currently have insurance. We will in a few months, but what we're going to do is we're going to add X amount of dollars to your paycheck. Or like, yeah, I ride a city bike. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll pay for your monthly city bike or give you something for the train. And then there have been people that they're like, gym heads, or they want something that they used to have in their job, and they go ahead and ask, well, what's the possibility? And they're like, oh, okay, we can work with that. Let's just do the numbers, and we can definitely work with that. And then the last thing that I do want to add, because I did forget, is that when you're working with small businesses, especially if you are trying to transition from one position to the next level, it's really you have to climb that corporate ladder, right? But let's say like you just lost your job at a corporate and you're trying to get into another corporate. May not be ideal for you, but it would be great for you to just go to a small business, utilize the skills that you have, and then just say like, listen, I'm trying to get to the next level. They'll be like, they are so open to like, yes, you can do this job while you're learning to do the next, and you can add that to your resume and get your corporate job in a year or two later on, because they're so open with like getting help and trying to help you as well.
That's one of the things that I have always been a big champion of when it comes to small business. And it's something that we talked about in our Chamber of Commerce. And it was the flexibility and the openness to create growth within someone's career trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And being sort of a lab in a lot of ways, where if you want to take the initiative and that's something you want, then we will help create those environments to help give you those greater responsibility points
Yes.
so that you're getting that experience, and then you can add that to your resume. And then, if you move back on into the next place, great. And if you move with and grow with us, good. Because that's the
Absolutely.
thing about a small business, is you are also positioned to grow with that
Yeah.
company
Hmm.
as you're adding to that, which I love.
I
Okay,
love
so from the talent recruitment, from the small business owner standpoint, what are some of your best tips and practices so that they're not getting burnt out?
that. So it is tough, right? Because there's different levels of being a small business, right? There's just like the solopreneur that's by themselves, that there's just trying to get that one person added. There's just like some people that are just like 1 to 5, and then there's people who have like 20 employees or whatever, and bring in like 3 million in revenue a year, and they're still considered a small business. 5 million still considered small business, right? But what I can say is that being that the human resource department is either very small and limited just to like that one person, or most of the time it's just like the business owner just trying to do it on their own, is I not because I am a recruiter and have a recruiting agency, but small businesses tend to steer away from recruiters and recruiting agencies because they think that it is a luxury expense that they can't afford, right? And usually it is, right? And that's why, I thought that, as a small business owner, I thought, like, why not help the small businesses, right? But with that said, I think that as a small business owner, go and look for a reliable recruiter that is there to really help you, and not that the cookie cutter kind of like deal, someone that is really there to cater to your needs and to your specific company. And the reason that I say that is because, number one, doing it on your own becomes very expensive, whether you're posting on Indeed, whether you're doing it on LinkedIn, or doing it, on one of those systems that kind of like put it out to all the job boards. It's very expensive, right? Some of them are like you pay per posting. A lot of them are, boost your post for this much, or you pay for every time somebody clicks it. It's just insane, right? And then you get a bunch of resumes that you're like, what? Like, or did you seriously apply for this job? And those, out of probably 80% of the resumes that you'll get are junk. Sometimes when I used to look at resumes, because I still do as a recruiter, but when I was in leadership and I was looking at resumes, I'm like, did you send this to me because you have to like comply with like the Department of Labor for your unemployment benefits? Because it's just like so insane. I'm like, there's no way that you thought you could qualify for this job, or your resume was too crappy. But you have to shift through all of that, right? You're paying for it. You're sitting at your kitchen table, or you're still at the office when your wife or your husband are yelling like, when are you going to pay attention to us, right? Because you have to do the day to day, and whether you have employees or you don't, you're either managing your employees to do the job, or you're doing everything kind of like yourself. And then at the end of the day is that you're kind of like shifting through these resumes, and not only are you being stressed, you're burning yourself out to then repeat the whole process in the morning. And you want to look at every resume because you don't want to be like one of those systems, right? That's kind of like pops out a resume that you may just have missed because you're tired, right? Not only are you spending money for posting and trying to get candidates any which way you can, whether it's paying for a job fair or anything like that, but you're also losing money. The more time that you spend trying to get this person, that position is open. And if you're not filling it, you're losing money because that person is not, someone's not there doing that productivity. And if you're doing it yourself, then then you're not focusing exactly on other parts of the business. You're spreading yourself too thin. So no matter which way you look at it, you're really, really losing money. So I think that getting a recruiter that knows your business, that wants to know your business, that can do all that work for you for a great price, because pricing is everything, especially when you're a small business, will be very beneficial. But if you still decide to do it yourself, I don't, honestly, I really wouldn't go crazy trying to post it in every single avenue that you can. Choose one, because you'll get the same amount of crappy resumes just through one, right? I by percentage, right? And then you know, a lot of times when you post on, let's say, LinkedIn, it'll show up somewhere else anyway, right? So yeah,
Yes,
just
because guys, remember, LinkedIn is optimized as a search engine.
yeah. Yeah,
It is not just a social media platform. It is optimized as a search engine. So anything going
exactly.
on LinkedIn shows up at the top of your Google search, folks. Have you noticed that?
Yes. So I would just choose one platform, because using all of them is just too expensive. And
Yes.
when it comes to going through the resumes, just make sure that you're looking for what it is that you're really looking for. So take the time to really write down what are the qualities that, not only the skills, but the qualities that you want that person to have, that's not only going to fit into the position, but that is going to fit into the company culture that you're trying to create as well.
And make a note. By the time you've decided to hire for a position as a small business owner, it's already needed,
Yes.
probably 6 months to a year ago.
Yeah.
And if it's a position that was already in existence and you finally decided to let the person go because maybe it wasn't a fit, you're definitely hurting to make sure you get the right candidate in there, and spending a little time with a recruiter who can guide you to create the optimum job description
Yeah.
before you ever even advertise the position is so worth it. Am I right?
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I missed that point. Because like I said, I hate job descriptions. So when I help a client, that's one of the things that we really hone in on, is the right wording that's not going to confuse anybody. We don't want it to be too wordy either, because some people just skim over it and apply anyway, right? Or they skim over it and they're the right candidate and they're just like, this is way too wordy. I'm just going to skip, right? So it's just making sure that it's not too wordy, it has the right verbiage in it, and that it appeals to the audience and your company brand.
And please do not start your job description with the selling technique of, we're such a fabulous company and everything about the history of your company in the first 10 paragraphs before you ever get to the dang job description.
Exactly. It seems like you're selling the job to the person rather than the person's trying to get the job. Yep.
I mean, yes, we need to do a little employment branding, y'all, but let's do it strategically. Let's be
Exactly.
real optimized about how we do this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, Jackie, I want to talk about the amazing work that you do, because you have your own business, because you are a small business owner as a recruiter with the Strategic Talent Acquisition Recruiting Firm. And we have the link on the show notes. So if you guys are out there and you are looking for a recruiter who specializes in small businesses, definitely go check out Jackie. If you are also a candidate, go check out Jackie, because if this is something you haven't thought of before and you have been resume bombing out there, 150, throwing them at the wall, and been heading in these larger organizations, and maybe it's a time factor, make sure you're looking for those things. But Jackie, you have something I think is probably even more special, which is the Stephen Project. Can you tell everybody about the Stephen Project and who it's for, where to find you, and what are the services that you offer?
Yeah, so the Stephen Spectrum Career Project, which is the Stephen Spectrum, the StephenProject.org, is we specialize in workforce training, daily living workshops, mentorship, and job placement for the neurodivergent community within New York City. What we found, so let me backtrack a little bit. So I have a nephew who is right now 28 years old. But at the time he was a bit younger. But he kind of like struggled to not. It's not like he really wanted a job. It's more that he just wanted purpose, right? So he's autistic, and he just wanted a job like everybody else. We take it for granted. Oh, I hate my job. Monday comes, you just don't want to do it, or you hate the job search. But he he wishes that he can do that, right? So it was just more of him inspiring me, because that just really like boils my blood. That it's really whatever that everyone else experiences is 10 times harder for the neurodivergent, whether they're trying to look for a job, whether they're in a job, right, that they don't have anyone to guide them or a mentor or anything like that. So we provide those services within New York City. We focus a lot on autistic individuals, but we don't turn away anyone who's neurodivergent.
So what are some of the services that you have? Because I know you mentioned some job training and things like that, some services you have available as part of the program.
So as far as we're still in the process of developing a lot of our workforce training, right now we have some partners that do provide some classroom trainings that we provide the support to the neurodivergent individual to make sure that they're able to get through those courses. So anything from, whether they want to be a home attendant or a security guard, there's cybersecurity. There's also classes in like culinary arts, which a lot of people enjoy, right? Our signature program actually is that we have developed a apprenticeship, and that's like our main program, specifically for the Stephen Spectrum Career Project. And it's a horse program, a horse training program. And what they do is basically, if they want to participate in the apprenticeship, they would come in as what they call a hot walker, someone who kind of like prepares a horse and kind of like walks them around. While they're doing that, they're learning the horse safety and preparing the horse, and it's kind of therapeutic at the same time. Once they see that they have a good sense of like the horse and handling the horse, and that they're really passionate and do want to proceed, they have the option of becoming a horse groomer, a horse trainer, jockey manager, a horse exerciser. And if they do want to become a horse trainer, they'll be like a horse training apprentice for like 3 years, and then get their license through New York State to become a horse trainer. And the beauty of this program is for any neurodivergent that wants to start to live independently because they haven't, or they have and they kind of didn't like the vibe, and they want to try it again. They free housing, medical, and dental is provided at the track of where they would work. So not only do they get a paycheck, but they get free room, board, and medical and dental.
Wow, that is tremendous. That is absolutely tremendous. I cannot tell you how having housing available is so huge with the underemployment rate and unemployment rate within our neurodivergent population. to
Yeah.
have that paired in there is really, really huge, because housing scarcity within our population is such a challenge. It is something that I have struggled with within my adult life. And it's something that I think is one of the things that everyone should have access to. And I love that you've included that as part of what you're doing. So, guys, you can go check out and connect with Jackie at starecruitingfirm.com. And if you'd like to learn more about the Steven Project, you can check it out at the Steven, STEVEN project.org. Jackie, before we wrap up today, for all of those people who are out there and they're maybe trying to get their resume ready, they're trying to make sure that everything looks good, that they aren't, like getting too wordy. They want to use the bullet points like you suggested. They want to have a good, clean, simple resume. How do they just start that? What do they need to do? What's just like the one big tip if somebody is trying to get their resume looking really good? What's the biggest tip as a recruiter that you're like, do this, don't do this?
Yeah. So I think that the main thing is just to start typing, right? So start typing. Don't worry about how it looks in the beginning, right? Start typing where the company was, the location, and the location, whether it's New York, New York. Don't put the address or anything like that. Make sure that a good title is there. If you have one of those creative titles, then put a title that is closest to it, and put it like in parentheses or something like that, so they know. One
Ooh,
thing,
that's really
yeah,
good. So project manager versus like project coordinator.
yeah. So if you have
So
like
put
one of
project
those,
coordinator in quotes over here, but put the concrete title first.
yeah. So if you have one of those funky titles that nobody knows later, yeah, what is that? Just put it in quote, whichever one you want, in like parentheses. That way they know. If it's a temporary or a contract position, please, please, please put that next to the position. And the only reason that I say that is because when people look at a resume, if they see that you've been 6 months here or 1 year here, only a year, like year, and you're bouncing around, nobody wants to see that. They'll see that, not read your resume, and you're automatically discounted because they think like, hey, we're going to bring her in, and guess what? She's going to leave us too. So just make sure that either put contract, temporary, something, if it is that type of position, and then just start bullet pointing the main things. And what I mean by bullet point, it's not like words. It's just like, a description, a one-line description, a sentence of the main things that you did at that job, and then just start bullet pointing them, and then go back and review it and say like, do I really need all this? Because you don't want like 10 bullet points, you want probably like 5. And then do that for your next position, and then go back and make sure that you put, of course, like your education at the bottom and all that stuff, but then go back and review it and kind of like start formatting it how you want to look, and things like that. And if you want to put a little summary on your background, you could just put the summary there, but keep it really like 2-3 sentences. Don't make it like a big paragraph, because I'm sorry, like you
No
probably
one's
care
reading
more
it.
than they do. Like it sounds so beautiful. Why wouldn't they read it? I get it, but
Because they have 1,800 other ways
yeah,
and they don't have the time
exactly,
to read it.
exactly.
Jackie Diaz, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for covering some of the ins and outs of job seeking and recruiting without burning out today. We appreciate your time. Guys, make sure you stick around. This entire month of November is packed full of incredible insights and tools to help you in your career. Gratitude flows as we come to the end of another incredible episode of Beyond Chronic Burnout. Thank you for being part of this life-giving journey. I'm Carole Jean Whittington, and I'm inspired by your commitment to growth and restoration. Keep applying these insights to your life, and remember, we're here every step of the way together. Share this podcast with others who could use a boost of energy and to know that they're not alone. Let's create a ripple effect of compassionate curiosity about who we are. Until next time, take care, stay energized, and keep thriving, my friend.
Thanks for being here. It's been quite a ride. Energy mastery, let's turn the tide. Top shelf guests, dropping wisdom bombs. Join us next week, where the energy's strong. Beyond Chronic.